Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, we're talking about the future cafe and what it looks like. 2020, what a year. It has forced us to look at everything in the coffee value chain. The way we buy coffee, the way we import coffee, how much coffee we keep on hold, who roasts our coffee, should we start roasting our own coffee? How we operate our cafes, how we're allowed to operate our cafes. Should people be telling us how we operate our cafes? How do we keep the public safe? How do we keep our staff safe? How do we keep ourselves safe? What should we be serving? What shouldn't we be serving? Do we have ceramic cups? Do we not have ceramic cups? Can people bring their own cups? We were so hell-bent on sustainability. And that's been thrown out the window now. We cannot, not thrown out the window, but things like paper cups are a requirement now as opposed to reusable cups. So it's all been tipped on its ass, as we say in Australia. And we're having to reassess everything. The smart players in the industry had realized some time ago that given the way that the cafe model is built, it needed to be reassessed anyway. It's unsustainable from a profit perspective. What do I mean by that? A lot of people get into coffee. Let me say it this way instead. A lot of people got into coffee when they saw that in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was serious money to be made in having a coffee shop and having a roastery. The profit margins back then were in the double digits. And as a part of the profit margins being so high, labor costs being so low, acceptably so low, and not having a focus on buying practices with coffee, the consequence was ka-ching, ka-ching, lots of money. As we became more and continue to become more conscious of the way that we support the value chain and our employees, as well as rent prices rising and other costs going up, the net profit margins on that have dwindled to very low single digits. And when I say very low single digits, that's for people who are doing well. It's incredibly rare to see people running businesses in the coffee and in the cafe space particularly that are in the high single digits, let alone the low double digits. Now, I know that there are some restaurants that try to operate their businesses at around 13, 14%. But that's super, super difficult to do. And particularly in cafes, it's super, super difficult to do. A lot of businesses, when I speak to new clients, when I ask them what their profit margins are, the actuality of it is very different than what they tell me at the time. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't understand what's going on behind the words that they're saying. So their assumption that they're running a business at 10% net profit immediately triggers me to ask, well, if that was the case, you wouldn't be coming to me for consulting. And second of all, you probably don't understand a profit and loss statement. Excuse me. If you think that you're running a business at 10% of profit as a cafe. So the smart people in the room have been calling this out for some time. And we've known for some time that the model needs to change. when you look at the parallels in the way that culture is moving with regards to technology, that adds an extra layer of why this model needs to change. People don't have time or patience to wait for coffee anymore. As attention spans get shorter and shorter, the expectations on businesses are getting more and more difficult to deliver on with the current model. So a number of things need to change in the future cafe model. And the requirement for that to change is happening quickly. 2020 is determining that that change has to happen much more quickly than any of us thought it would. Now, what are those changes? I want to put these on your radar so that you don't think that these are things that need to happen in 10 years. In 2019, these are things that may have had to happen in 10 years or were coming in 10 years or would be normal in 10 years. These are things that need to start changing right now. And when I look at the next 12 months for this podcast, I am looking at connecting with sponsors for this brand that are going to help deliver on informing the changes that need to happen. So I'm looking for relationships with businesses that can help execute on these future models that I think need to happen, the future changes that need to happen as quickly as possible. So first and foremost, one of the things that I think that cafes should be focusing on immediately is technology. How is the equipment that you have available to you right now, given the new environment that we have to operate within, where your labor is going to be much more of a concern than it used to be? How do you keep your staff safe? How do you keep your customers safe? And how do you manage this situation with regards to the way that you pay staff? So we need to be paying people more. In order to pay people more, we probably have to have less people in our team. And having less people in our team that are more capable and better able to support the business structure is important. I'm probably going to cop some shit about that. I don't care. We need business models that work so that when we have business models that work, we have more businesses that are functional. More businesses that are functional means more employment that's sustainable. Excuse me. I'm going out there right now and looking for technology companies that are building equipment that is focused on automation. The reason I think that automation is going to be important is because if we can have well-executed coffee that's fast and requires the person who's operating the equipment or maintaining the equipment, let's call them the same thing as what we call them now, the barista. I don't think it's going to be a barista in the future. I think the role of barista is going to evolve. If we can shift their requirement from having to do the stuff that machines can do to doing the things that the business needs them to do, which is inform the customer, sell better, educate people more, work on different ways of elevating the cafe experience, then I think that we're going to start to see better profit margins. But more importantly, I think we're going to start to see happier employees who we're shifting their skill set from being about things that they think are the most important part of the job to the thing that is the most important part of the job, which is the relationship that they have with the customer. So if we can get machines doing the mechanical stuff, get baristas thinking about how they can manage the inputs into that mechanical process. So the quality of the coffee and the adjustments in the technology from different perspectives, then I think that we have a model that works better. So technology is going to be important. The other thing, the businesses of the future are going to have a great relationship with their customers in a different way. They're going to be less close-minded to the way that they communicate with their customers. Traditionally, the coffee shop has been the place where people come together. 2020, and for the next couple of years, I would suggest, has determined that the cafe is no longer the space where people can commune and connect on a daily basis. Social distancing has prevented that from happening. The cafe model of the future will find a way to connect people virtually. You will find a way to create a collective experience online. And the cafes that survive this next couple of years are going to be the ones that nail that well. When I was a barista, it was not that I could make coffee that my customers enjoyed that was the superpower of what I thought my job was. The superpower of what your job is as a barista is that you're creating a moment for somebody in their life, in amongst all the stress and anxiety that they experience, that will not bitch back at them. How do we translate that into a virtual experience online? And how do you create that intimate moment between a person and this little sacred beverage that is so much more than the caffeine and flavor that it presents? It is their sanctitude for the day. It is their sanctuary for the few minutes that they get to experience that first cup, that first sip. It should be the trigger for them that tells them, this is the moment where everything is okay. How are you as the cafe going to create that moment together with the connectedness of the cafe that they would experience in the shop? How are you going to elevate that so that it's still those two moments, the connection of community and the sanctitude of the first sip? How are you going to create that virtually? And the smart people in the room, when it comes to operating cafes, are going to be focusing on that as the cafe model evolves. The third thing that I think that the cafe of the future is going to look like, your employees in a cafe are going to have less to do with the mechanical side of doing things, and they're going to be required to be more professional when it comes to sales and business operations. And what that means is that gap in the middle of their skill set is going to be taken over by automation, as I said. And you as a business owner should absolutely be looking at how you can facilitate helping them get there with that. And so sure, they will be required to clean. They will be required to do dishes and things like that. But more so, they will be required to elevate a customer's experience, much like what a sommelier does. So the sommelier isn't required to make the wine. They are required to understand everything behind what got the wine into that bottle and to their venue, and then present it to them. But the sweet spot will be, how do we do that without arrogance? How do we become coffee sommeliers with a 30-second experience? And they're just 3 of the many things that I think that the cafe model of the future is going to have to do to adapt. There are many more. I think the aesthetics of a cafe are going to shift. The idea of quick and fast and easy is going to be something that's required. But this is information that I share specifically with clients and in mastermind groups to help people who are getting coaching from us elevate quickly. So if you'd like to be a part of the mastermind groups, go to mapitforward.org/group coaching and become a part of either the leadership mastermind groups or the roasting mastermind groups with Ann Cooper. The future is bright, friends, but not before it gets really dark. There's going to be a lot of businesses that have to close, but it's a reckoning that needed to happen. And on the other side of this are going to be people who understand that the model is changing and it's changing quickly. And if you're not adapting to it, you're going to get left behind. I hope you're not one of them. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.